Animation moves forward when artists bring new perspectives, concepts, and techniques into productions. To help your production keep up with the most talented artists in our industry, we focused on performance and quality of life improvements in Harmony 25 and Storyboard Pro 25. Improvements to project file sizes mean projects open 3 times faster, playback twice as smoothly, and transfer faster across networks. With the ability to save as a single file, collaboration with your crew is simpler than ever. Artists can adjust opacity and thickness with the pencil line retouch tool. Capture the look and feel of traditional media without compromising adjustability across the ink and paint process. The brand new Breakdown Assistant helps animators set breakdowns between keyframes and adjust which keyframe is favored with fewer clicks. Artists can now import Photoshop brushes directly into Storyboard Pro in Harmony. By keeping brushes consistent, your concept art will better match the final shot. Want to thumbnail your boards without distractions? The quick thumbnailing workflow in Storyboard Pro allows artists to draw thumbs in a grid or transfer your paper thumbnails easily onto the timeline. Need your storyboards and animatics to look more cinematic? The updated effects stacked view brings non-destructive filters to Storyboard Pro. And with quality of life improvements like lockable scene markers or click and drag layer toggling, every part of the process becomes more responsive. Built to give artists like you the best canvas possible. Harmony 25 and Storyboard Pro 25 now available at toonboom.com.
Animators and artists. Blue Zoo is a British animation studio which produces both 2D and 3D animated series and feature films. The studio was founded in the year 2000 by Oli Hyatt, Adam Shaw, and Tom Box. Now celebrating the studio's 25th anniversary, we invited Tom Box, Millie Parker, and Lauren Auty to discuss the workplace culture at Blue Zoo, how the studio fits into the landscape of children's animation within the UK, as well as the process Blue Zoo went through to create a manifesto for the studio's ethical use of AI in productions. So, Tom, Millie, Lauren, welcome to the stream.
Thanks for inviting us.
Thanks for having me.
We're really excited to have you. So let's start with introductions. Tom, how would you describe your role at Blue Zoo, and what does a typical day in your role look like?
So I'm kind of the joint managing director, co-founder, which means I wear lots of different hats. So I look after quite a few different things, which means a lot of my day is spent catching up with different people, seeing the kind of the status of different kind of projects and initiatives. But then those different hats I wear cover kind of our strategy. It covers the culture. I also head up the technology and innovation, and also a bit of marketing and B Corp. So it's quite a lot of things, lots of things that aren't production based, basically. So I'm always every day going in to the studio 1 or 2 days a week, or working from home as we have a hybrid kind of setup, and jumping between all those different projects, which I love, because I guess I've got quite a short attention span. So I like kind of constantly chopping and changing the different things that I'm doing, and that's what kind of keeps it exciting after 25 years.
And you mentioned the Blue Zoo is a B Corp. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So B Corp is an international worldwide standard, and what it is, it's trying to encourage companies to have positive impact. And the way it works is that the B Corp standard has about 200 different questions that you can go through and answer, and they're public, and they cover all things like your environmental footprint, how well your company runs, and how you work with your customers, how well you treat your staff, how well you work with your local community. And then you upload all of that data, measuring all those different things to the B Lab, the company that runs B Corp, and they give you a score. And if you pass a certain amount, then you get certified as B Corp. And there's only about, I think, 9,000 companies in the world that have managed to do that, because it took us about 2 years to do that. And we find it really beneficial because it works as a guide and shows where we can improve. So we try and make sure it kind of underpins everything that we do, to make sure that it guides us on a more kind of impactful path. And it's not saying we're perfect, much like any person or company, no one's perfect. But what it does do is tries to flag up where you can improve, so you can kind of be the best version of yourself within the parameters you have, whilst being a for-profit company. So you can have maximum impact, but also be kind of financially sustainable, so you do exist in a year's time still. So it's trying to balance a lot of different things in the most kind of positively impactful way.
And Lauren, what is your role at Blue Zoo, and what does a typical day for you look like?
I'm a storyboard supervisor, and a typical day for me involves a lot of meetings, lots of scratchy doodles, like over the top of people's gorgeous work. I look after about a team of 4 people, like 2 storyboard artists, 2 revisionists, and I'm usually either, if I'm not briefing them or watching animatics with the director, I'll be just checking in on them, making sure they're all on track and everything. Every Monday, myself and the director will thumbnail an entirely new episode of the series. And then the following week, on a Wednesday, we will pitch that to the client. And then that will be the brief for the storyboard artists for the following weeks. And yeah, that's my day.
Yeah, and I know that Blue Zoo both works on 2D and 3D productions. Lauren, do you primarily work on the 2D side or the 3D side?
I'm currently on a 2D show, and I've worked on the 2D side of Blue Zoo for a couple of years now. I was previously on a show called Super Potato, really fun, but I started initially in 3D. In 3D work, storyboarding. So yeah, a bit of both. I dabble in both.
Is there anything that you miss from 3D when you're working in 2D, or vice versa?
Yeah, for me, it's the fluidity of the camera. Like in when we storyboard in 3D for 3D productions at Blue Zoo, we use 3D software. So we'll bring in like the models and the 3D backgrounds and sets, and so if we need to move a camera or, you know, change the focal length of a camera or anything, it's quite simple. You just move it. But if I'm sat with the director on the show I'm on at the moment and we're thumbnailing an episode and we can't get a shot to work, and it's like, well, I'll be like, well, if we just move the camera a bit, it'll be fine. And then you'll have the TD like, no, do not. Then we've got to do a whole new background paint, and it involves way more people. And so I miss that. I like 3D is a lot easier to just go the camera.
Millie, what is your role at Blue Zoo, and what does a typical day in your role look like?
I'm a 2D animator, and my typical day looks like getting up and having breakfast and tea. And then I log onto my workstation, and I get to work from home because Blue Zoo has allows artists and animators to either work hybrid or work in the studio. And I work from home because I find like my productivity is a lot better working at my own space. So I log on, and then I check my emails and my calendar for any meetings that I've got that day, or any important deadlines that I need to know, any changes about the character rigs, and then check my episode and see what shots I have. I usually have about between 200 and 300 frames a day, depending on the complexity of the shots to get through. So yeah, I'll have a look at that and then crack on, start animating. Yeah, and if I have any meetings with my team, we'll talk to the director about anything that needs to be known about the character acting or what the character's feeling in that episode. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward, and then we get going, do it. And that's good.
Are there certain kinds of scenes that you get excited to animate? Like, oh, I can't believe you get to do one of these.
Yeah, I really like small character moments and action shots, which is like two different opposite of the spectrum. But it's really nice getting to animate characters who are having a really meaningful moment together, and seeing that, like, you know, little eye darts or emotion captured on the face. And then with action, like anything that's like, I don't know, mermaids swimming or like fairies flying. It's just like all that kind of fun stuff that is you don't usually get to animate if it's a show about like the mundane. But yeah, like Super Potato, for instance, our show at Blue Zoo, that's about vegetables, and he was super. So it's very exciting getting to animate like a potato flying in the air.
Yeah, I find that there are either animators who like doing really big things and animators who like doing really subtle things, and you've given me both answers, which is awesome. Millie, how would you describe Blue Zoo and the types of productions that your studio specializes in from your point of view?
I'd describe it as it's not afraid to experiment and have a lot of variety in the shows and IP that Blue Zoo picks up, because Blue Zoo does everything, like films, advertising, and like TV shows. And a lot of the time, there's opportunities to pitch, like artists and animators can pitch their own ideas, which is really valuable, I think. And it's important because you have this whole studio full of really talented people, and they only do one thing on the show, but really they might do loads of different things, like be writers or storyboard artists. So having an opportunity to be able to pitch your own idea for a show or a short film, yeah, it's really good to have that. Yeah, lots of variety, I'd say.
Tom, as a co-founder, how do you describe Blue Zoo when you're pitching the studio?
I think we always try and make sure that people understand where we come from, because that is who we are, and the fact that we did start it as a bunch of animators just wanting to experiment and explore through trial and error, like Millie said, using all sorts of different styles and constantly trying to kind of push ourselves out of our comfort zone a bit, out of our kind of creative and technical comfort zone. So we can always try and create something that's a little bit more kind of unique and something that really stands out in a very noisy world. So we kind of really make sure that when we are kind of pitching for shows and bidding for shows, it's that we do have that kind of indie studio, because we are a indie studio still. Myself, Adam, and Oli, we still kind of own it. But we have that approach, but with the experience, robustness, and kind of resources of a international studio. So it's kind of balancing both of those, so we can bring a very much of a impassioned approach where we really want to make sure that every single penny is seen on the screen, at the same time as having a kind of a battle tested pipeline and workflow to make sure that the clients always what we do kind of hopefully surpasses their expectations of what we're doing. So that's what the way we kind of approach it and live it as well.
And Tom, what attracts Bluezoo to the projects that you take on?
We always try and take on projects that we think our artists will really enjoy and can get excited about, and actually bring more to them than we thought about, which so they can push it forwards and then work with with our clients to equally get excited about it and push it. So it's about finding those projects that do align with our kind of strengths of kind of character animation and the values that we bring to it as well, of wanting, like going back to the B Corp thing, making kind of impactful shows as well. Because a lot of our shows are kind of comedy based, or educational shows, like all the kind of number block shows and so forth. But then it's about pushing past that as well. So we've been doing some more kind of adult comedy stuff as well. So it's about making sure that we're not taking on projects just to try and make some profit of it, because that's often a short-sighted way of viewing a project. If you're just doing it for the money, we want to do it so we can look back on it and be extremely proud of what we've all made.
That's really cool. Lauren, from your point of view, how do you describe Bluezoo and the types of productions that the studio specializes in?
Oh, I mean, it's very similar to what Millie said. We're just really, really fun, just really fun projects. I haven't had a production that I haven't like actually enjoyed the show, like if that makes sense, where I've worked on it and be like, I'd watch this. Like, I'd sit at home and watch this. I guess, like, as well, like, there's a couple of new hires as well that have come on my team at the moment, and all of them said, like, oh yeah, Bluezoo was on like my professional bucket list, essentially. Like, I had to work at Bluezoo at one point in my career, so they were thrilled that they got on the team. And I always thought that was really interesting. It's like, oh yes, I got it, got in. But yeah, just I think that's the general gist of it is just echoing Tom and Millie, like, just really, really fun projects and such a range as well. Like, I'm very fortunate to have worked on a fair number of projects at Bluezoo now, and every one of them has been like so different and enjoyable. And yeah.
Lauren, from your point of view, how do you describe the workplace culture at Bluezoo?
Very friendly. It's one of them ways. It's very friendly. There's usually like lots of either parties or events going on. There's like plenty of ways to make friends outside of your production, which I really, really appreciate, because I've worked at other studios where, especially with work from home, you can kind of become really isolated. It's really easy to just kind of like, just get your head down and keep going. But there is such a warm social aspect to Bluezoo that I really, really enjoy, because you just get to meet so many different people and see what everyone else is doing. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I really appreciate as well that Bluezoo, they're very open to flexi time. Like flexi time and working from home, so it feels a bit more accessible, especially for me. I don't live in London. The studio is based in London and Brighton, but I'm in the north of England. So a couple of years ago, that wasn't even possible. It was a bit unheard of to work in the animation industry and be up north. But yeah, like I really appreciate that, especially when you're starting to hear more just in the workplace in general, people are starting to come back into the office, and I really like that. Bluesy keep the door open for anyone who wants to stay working at home, and have flexible work hours as well. It's very easy to organize. It doesn't feel like, you know, pulling teeth trying to be like, can I move my hours just so I can, you know. So yeah, just really flexible and really accommodating and just very friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think being able to accommodate employees who live in different locations too is just really awesome for being able to get access to a wider pool of talent. And also, if someone finds a really great house that's a little bit further afield, they don't have to feel like, okay, well, I guess I have to give up my job, which that sounds scary. Millie, how would you describe the workplace culture at Bluezoo?
Very fun. Yeah, we have a great community of people in Bluezoo. I'm fortunate to live in Brighton, so we've got a Brighton Zoo, which is like the sister studio of Bluezoo. And there's always things happening and some sort of exciting event going on. In the summer, we play rounders in the field, or we go to the beach because we live right next to the beach. There's pub of the months, and there's film club. What I really like about it is because you could, no matter like what you are into, there's always someone in the studio who's like just as excited as you to get into that. I think there's even a Bluesy band, which is pretty cool. Yeah, and it's a great way to make friends. I've made my lifelong friends working at Bluezoo, who I see almost every single day, and that is just so nice to have, and to have that culture of like friendship and like some case even family, like because you're so close with each other. You can't overlook that. But yeah, it's pretty good, I'd say.
And Tom, as someone who spent a good amount of influence setting the workplace culture at Bluezoo, how do you describe the culture at the studio?
I think a lot of it comes down to trust and transparency, because those are the kind of key things to people to enjoy working in a team. So it's really about trying to, the way I see it, is trying to give that autonomy to allow people just to get on with their jobs, like Millie and Lauren were saying, where if you have, you know, responsibilities, whether that's kind of childcare or parent care, that we want to make sure that we're allowing people to do what they want to do in the best way that suits them. But I think it's tricky when it comes to culture, because you can't force culture. You kind of have to sprinkle seeds and nudge it round the edges, because culture is what the people do, not what you say. So it's always I find it a fascinating kind of subject of how we've tried to really lead by example in that way, of trying to make sure that culture is being nudged in the right way, and everyone is being genuinely supportive of each other and trying to help everyone grow together. Because for example, I meet every new member of staff on a Monday and kind of go through some of our values, and one of those values is we always want everyone to be supportive of each other, so everyone rises up together, where we don't have just one person climbing on top of everyone else because they think they're better than everyone else and kind of unfairly claim the glory. It's about, animation's a team sport, so we really try and kind of encourage that and be transparent about it. And for example, one way we really build the transparency is a few times a year we do our kind of quarterly roadmap, where we go through all of our finances. We say, how much money we have in the bank, what our profitability is, what projects we have, what we're trying to do. We've done Ask Us Anythings, where anyone can ask any of the exec team any question, and there are kind of no holds barred answers. And that's a case of trying to flag up if the staff think myself or any of our kind of the exec team have done a rubbish job, then tell us, otherwise we won't know. So it's really trying to create that honest, trusting communication channel to make sure that we're living and doing what we're saying, and it's not just a fake charade. We're genuine about it.
So Blue Zoo was founded in the year 2000, and right now it's 2025. How has the studio developed over the past 25 years, Tom?
Yeah, it's been quite right. I'll say that. Not sure it ever gets any easier as well after 25 years. But it's been a fascinating journey since we started in our final year at university, where we thought, hey, it'd be fun to kind of be our own bosses and start an animation studio, not having a clue what we were doing. But like I said, we just saw that as a fun challenge and experimented our way forwards, and slowly and very carefully and cautiously grew, and always trying different things, new animation styles. And then over the 25 years, we've kind of grown more into developing our own shows as well. So now what we try and do is, for the last 15 years or so, we try to balance it. So half the shows that we do are shows that we own or co-own or have developed with another partner, and half the shows are really lovely kind of service projects, whether that's kind of Paddington or Lego, or the shows we're doing with the BBC. So it's really trying to find those shows that everyone does enjoy, and then now we're over 300 people. And that kind of goes up and down. Obviously, COVID was very busy years, and that was crazy times. But we've always had about 5 productions on the go at any one time. So but like I said, in the current climate, it is very, very challenging. But we're fortunate that we do have multiple shows on. But it's and then more recently we've started up our digital and licensing departments in collaboration with Alpha Blocks Limited. So we're really kind of making sure that we're adapting for the future, and that we are where the children are as well. So our digital team's running 15 different YouTube channels and doing all apps, and our licensing team's helping our brands grow around the world. So really trying to make sure that we're evolving from not just making the animation, but actually moving more towards growing the animation through the kind of fans and communities that grow around the shows.
Okay, that's fascinating. Lauren, from your point of view, like, when did you join Blue Zoo, and how did the studio develop since then?
So I joined I think I'm coming up to my 4th year at Blue Zoo now. And obviously, yeah, I joined like in the midst of like COVID and lockdown, and obviously, like I was talking about, working from home. I can't really, because I've only been here 4 years, I feel like I've just only seen like scratching the surface. But what I can say is back in, I think it would have been 2012 or 2013, I was a student and I was looking for an internship around that time. And I emailed Blue Zoo and I cold called the front desk, and I was like, "Oh, would you take an intern? Are you taking interns or anything?" And at that time they weren't. It was very just like, "No, sorry, we're just a regular studio, like, and obviously no hard feelings or anything." But since then, Blue Zoo I have noticed, and now they have a proper internship program, and they do summer internships, different kinds of, and it's really diverse. It's not just for animators, it's for a range of different roles, and I think that's one thing I think has been really cool with the development of Blue Zoo over the years, is that, like, from my perspective, from being a student, cold calling them, like, sorry, Tom, to now seeing, we're seeing multiple students and or young people, or even not even young people, just early starters, in the industry, like, filter through and come through and get in their first foot in the door. And I think, especially with the climate right now of the industry, that is so important. And I think it's harder and harder, to get your foot in such a intense industry. And I think it's really special to offer that opportunity to a lot of people. And I know Blues are also known for, like, you know, hiring on you know, graduates and stuff like that, like people that won't have that much experience. I tried to do the same thing on my current team. Like, we had one revisionist who had no experience whatsoever, and yeah, I feel really strongly about that about Bluezoo. I really like that keeps getting better and better. Do you know what I mean? Giving out these opportunities.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point too. Millie, when did you join Bluezoo, and how has the studio evolved since then?
So I joined Bluezoo in May of 2021, and it was my first job in the industry. And subconsciously before then, this is going to show my age, but I grew up like watching Blue Cow, which was, I think, Tom's laughing right now, but like one of the first,
Very first, yeah.
very first animation that Bluezoo ever got commissioned. So I remember like watching that and being obsessed because it was on CBeebies Storytime. Anyway, that was a bit of a tangent, but it's relevant. Yeah, and then so when I like discovered that, and when I was a student and went to Arts University Bournemouth, which Tom, Adam, and Oli also went to Bournemouth University. Yeah, I heard about Bluezoo and thought, oh, I'd love to work for them. They seemed great, and the work that they were making was really exciting. And being local to the UK was great, because that all we ever heard of when, you know, as a student animator is, oh, you have to move to LA or you have to move to Canada to get a job in animation, which is not the case, thankfully, for people who are living abroad, that we can, you know, have studios that are local to us. So yeah, I joined in 2021, same as Lauren, I believe. Yeah, around the same time.
Must have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
COVID
projects and years kind of they blend together. Like, I just see project as a year of life, and I don't actually think that it could span over several years. I'm never sure how long it's been.
Yeah, I joined, and then I was a junior animator working on this cute little show called Millie and Lou. And yeah, that experience was really crazy, because in your mind, well, in my mind, I thought, as soon as I graduate, I'm going to, you know, commute to London every day and meet my team in person. But that wasn't the case. But I'm kind of thankful it didn't happen, because maybe I wouldn't have had the experience I did. And making all the friends online and meeting, like talking to them every day on Zoom was, yeah, really nice. And my lead at the time, Rebecca, took me under her wing, and that's another thing about Bluezoo. Everyone's so supportive. Yeah, Tom and Lauren mentioned it earlier, but yeah, it's when you're a junior, you have so much anxiety and imposter syndrome of, am I good enough to be here? Everyone else is so much more talented than me. But no one, you know, thinks that way. They're like, oh, we're just going to help you. And yeah, they really, took me under their wing. So I worked on Millie and Lou, and then went away for a bit, and then came back for Super Tato. And then, yeah, I'm back now on a NDA show, but yeah, that's my tale of Super Bluezoo.
Millie, from your point of view, which of Bluezoo's productions were the most creatively interesting or technically challenging to work on?
Yeah, I thought long and hard about what to say, because a lot of the 2D animation I work on is quite standard for kids shows. But then I thought about this short film that Bluezoo made with a charity, and it was called Armour, and it was directed by Adam Davies. And that was really interesting, because it was commissioned to tackle the really difficult topic of toxic masculinity. And I think the team did a really good job like portraying that through animation. And I don't think it could have been done with like the honesty and care that it did if it was live action or any other medium. And I suggest everyone to watch it, because it's really, really well done. But yeah, I thought what they did with the metaphor of basically, without any spoilers, too many spoilers. The boy has is joking around with his friends, and then he gets this armor placed on him as a metaphor of him like hiding behind his true self and just saying what everyone else wants him to say or thinks he should say. And I think, yeah, that must have been quite challenging for the team to portray these feelings, especially as there's no dialogue. It was all like quiet and, well, not quiet, yeah, just, characters not saying anything. So it was all the language was through emojis, which also is quite difficult because it's like, what emojis should you pick that people are immediately going to go like, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. But yeah, that's the one I would say.
Yeah, I think one of like animation superpowers is making like things that are internal, like feelings, visible. And it's just always really cool to see productions that can like lean into that. Tom, from your point of view, which of Blue Zoo's productions were the most creatively interesting or challenging to work on?
I think for me, similar to Millie's answer, I think it's the shorts programs that we've done over the last two decades. The idea of those has always been to really push ourselves to the point where we're not sure what we're actually doing, in the sense of we don't know how it's going to end up. So it's a kind of a safe space for creativity where you're not going to break a client's trust by producing something that hasn't quite worked. So so when we did Armor for Beyond Equality, that was like Millie said, a very, very tricky one to do, but it was the one before that as well was one called Sinking Feeling, directed by Mark Spokes, and that was for a different charity, for a youth suicide prevention charity, and that was obviously an extremely delicate subject matter, and it was, like you're saying, it's trying to kind of really portray emotions and feelings. And we did that in lockdown as well, where we thought, well, we usually make these shorts that are usually kind of comedies with fart gags and stuff, and we thought, why don't we try and do something when everyone is having a tough time in the midst of lockdown? Let's try and use the power of animation in a positive way. So we worked with the charity to make a film that would really try and help people talk about the subject matter. And with that as well, we experimented with that one was done in Blender, I think. So that's really creatively challenging, trying to do a different animation style at the same time. So we were kind of using technical R&D to help a charity at the same time. So from multiple different perspectives, it kind of helped different things and different people in different ways. Then I'd say just another one which really jumps out is another short which was called Mamoon, where we projected kind of 2D animation on polystyrene surfaces to tell a very human story as well. And that was a very different look, but it was really, how do we use kind of CG and 2D animation in a very kind of unexpected way that's visually intriguing, and it's really trying to take something that's usually very synthetic and make it very organic. And that was a fascinating challenge, and I think something that really proud of how, and that's directed by Ben Steer, who did an incredible job. So that every project's been very different, which makes picking one or two very, very challenging.
I love that. Lauren, from your point of view, which of Blue Zoo's productions were the most creatively interesting or technically challenging to work on?
Oh, Tom and Millie had some great answers. And I feel like mine's going to be quite disappointing. I haven't had the chance to work on a short yet. So most of mine has been like client work, and actually at the moment it's currently the show that I'm on right now. Obviously can't spoil too much and can't spill too much, but it's very based within magic, and there is a lot of it's almost like we didn't even realize from the beginning how much 2D effects and different 2D effects we'd be signing ourselves up for. because every single episode is different. Like, it's not just like one generic effect throughout the whole series. We've had to come up with different ways that certain things will happen in the episode, and without giving away too much detail. But yeah, that was personally for me what's been the most creatively, at least challenging, and especially as a head of department, because it's been speaking to like the FX department, like, okay, what are we capable of? What are we, what can we do? What can't we do? What can the rig do? What So yeah, the current show I'm on, that's been the most challenging, a bit of a mammoth task, but I can say, because Millie's one of the animators and they've done a fantastic job. Like I think we're about just over halfway through production of episodes and they're doing tremendous. So yeah, not as interesting as the Blue Zoo shorts, I'm afraid. I was like, oh man, like you two had some great answers. Like
I feel like those questions of like, how are we going to do this, are like some of the most rewarding things to work through too, though.
Yeah.
Tom, I wanted to ask you, so Blue Zoo may have been the very first studio to make their internal policies about AI use public. From your point of view, why was it important to release an AI manifesto, and what considerations was the studio weighing?
I think it came originally. It came down to everyone was full of questions, both inside our studio staff wanting to know what our approach is, obviously when the outside world is full of discourse and wanting to know where we stand on it, and what staff are and aren't allowed to use, and likewise our clients were asking. So everyone was full of questions, so we thought we'd better try and provide some answers so everyone knows where we stand. So we wanted to do that in a kind of transparent and open way. As a B Corp, we thought it was very important to make sure that we're taking into account all of our staff's concerns and anxieties and frustrations, and also speaking to our clients about it, and then making sure that was publicly available for anyone to see, because obviously with being a B Corp, that is about transparency. So we polled everyone in our studio to find out what people's primarily the main question in the first survey we did was, what are people's kind of concerns, and that really showed us and flagged up some things that originally we hadn't really anticipated. Like, obviously we thought people's concerns would mainly be in the legalities of the data sets, the environmental impact, and also the potential job displacement. But we didn't necessarily think that people would flag up their concern about the actual job satisfaction. If you're kind of delegating a lot of your job to just pressing an AI button, that's not much fun. So we took all of the surveyed information and tried to put together a kind of manifesto and policy that found a balance between everyone's opinions, because when we did survey 300 people, you do get quite a wide range of thoughts. And actually we found out that when we analyzed the data, the data was kind of all over the place, with some people saying, yeah, we should use it here, or no, we're evil for even considering using it. What we did, we actually looked at the data and we said, well, what happens if we separate this data between production and more of the animators and artists versus more of the production managers, coordinators? And then it was like night and day, where all of the production people were saying, how can you make doing spreadsheets easier, versus the artists saying, why are you even asking us what good is it going to bring? So we went through that, and then we kind of polled. We wrote the first draft, shared that, and then originally I think the first draft said we're going to have a blanket ban on any generative AI use in production. And then some artists pushed back, going, well, actually, I do want to use some tools like, for example, Adobe's generative fill. If it's going to make my job easier, it's a bit annoying me having to kind of manually copy and paste when I could do it in one click, but that's not kind of taking away any of their artistry. So we changed it to say, if the artist wants to use those tools that use kind of legally permissive data sets, then it's their decision to do so. So we did go through a few iterations and then have kind of publicly published that. And then we do a survey every 6 months, I think, on how people's thoughts have changed and if we need to adjust it at all based on that feedback.
Yeah, so after you publicly publish the manifesto, how would you characterize the response and how do you feel about it?
I think it's been received very well from the feedback I've had, especially since it is a nuanced kind of take. We're not taking a binary stance because it is a very grey area, and it's very hard to write specific kind of draw lines in the sand. So it was interesting to see kind of when Netflix policy came out the other week that they came to a very similar kind of conclusion to what we did in terms of really trying to take that nuanced approach. But I think ultimately what it's shown to me is that ironically in a world of AI, we have to double down on human creativity, because at the end of the day, that's what makes our shows great and successful, is the amazing kind of creativity that our artists put into it. I think especially if using AI, anyone can make an average kind of animation, then that means that we have to, in order to stand out above that sea of kind of average, we have to work with the very best creative artists, whether that's character designers, directors, animators, who can really bring those performances to life in ways that stands out than what a statistical data set thinks.
I think that's a very good point. Lauren, from your point of view as an artist, how did you feel about the process?
I was really pleased that Blue Zoo wanted the opinions of like their employees and artists when it came down to like writing the manifesto. When it first kind of came about, we got all sent a questionnaire and the full document, and read through it, let us know what you think, you know what I mean, and we all gave off, myself and other colleagues, we gave feedback. And then I think what was really important was every time feedback was given, changes were made. Do you know what I mean? And it was really happy to see that it felt like you were being listened to, rather than just being told, well, you have to use this tool, you have to use generative AI, you have to do this. And when in a world where you don't really want to use maybe you don't want to use these tools, or we had I myself had concerns over the environmental impact, and not just the legality of the data set, also like, where's our data going, that kind of thing. Is my work going to be quote unquote taken? Do you know what I mean? And it felt every time we put these points forward, that they were addressed in the next version of the manifesto and in the next document. And I think that was really important, and I think that was a really positive way to go about such obviously a big change, technological change in our industry. And rather than just AI seems to, the conversations around AI always feel like there's this, it's almost like there's a lot hidden behind closed doors, or there's a lot of uncertainty, or like you don't know what's actually going on. And I really like that Blue Zoo were just very open about it, and and that's all you can ask for, really, isn't it? Like, just be honest. So really, it's really appreciated from my point of view, and I was really happy that not only did we get to say our opinion once, we got to say it several times when the document kept being updated.
Yeah, I think one of the really cool things too was that it's very easy to send out a survey to all your employees. It's another thing to read it and then to sort through and to understand, okay, well, why are these people giving me different feedback? Like, is there a reason for it? And then to understand and address it, I think, is a whole nother step above. Millie, from your point of view, what was the process like?
Yeah, everything really Lauren said. Yeah, it was really like good to hear that Blue Zoo were being honest about it and asking us as the artists what our opinions are, instead of just, you know, doing it all behind closed doors and not asking the people who it will affect for their opinion. Yeah, it is worrying, like using AI, but yeah, it's nice to know that, yeah, Blue Zoo would want, if they did use it, we'd want to use it to empower human creativity, not replace it. And yeah, it's everything Lauren said.
Oh, thanks, Millie.
We got a question in our chat from an artist about like how to break into the animation industry. So I just wanted to ask, Millie, from your point of view as an animator, what should artists consider when applying to work on 2D productions at Blue Zoo? And what does the studio look for artists in terms of portfolios?
Yeah, so I would make sure, when I apply for a job, I always make sure that my work is relevant for the job I'm applying for. So a lot of people might include other sort of things in their portfolios that might not be relevant. So if you're applying for animation, and particularly if it's like a 2D Toon Boom show, it will be really nice to show that you have Toon Boom, like 2D animation in there. If it's rigs as well, because a lot of studios use puppeted rigs, and a lot of students especially don't realize that when you graduate, because some people still think that a lot of the time it's hand-drawn, which is not the case always. So I'd always check first, usually in the job description, what software it is and what style it is, to make sure that what you're showing is relevant. Obviously, put your best foot forward. Don't include anything that is not your greatest work. You want to include lots of stuff that's some action stuff, maybe. Really important to have lip sync and like character moments, like characters interacting with each other, especially, because that would be what you'll be doing every day on like a show like Super Potato, for example, or Millie and Lou. It's always characters talking and interacting together and holding props. So yeah, runs and walk cycles are all great, but yeah, what I would put in my portfolio if I was applying for a job would be those character interaction moments. And it's obvious, but name your work and put your email in there, and also say what software you're using. So if you're working in Toon Boom, or if it's like Adobe Animate, you need to make sure you're putting that in, just in case. It's just nice to have.
Yeah, making it easier for the hiring manager is always good advice. Tom, as a co-founder, are you still like very involved in those decisions for like hiring on productions, or is this something that you delegate?
Usually that's kind of like just within the production itself. I mean, I used to when we were a lot smaller, but now we're obviously we've got multiple productions going on. So I get involved with more of the hiring decisions on the non-production side of things, and get involved in the interviewing for those different roles. But generally on the actual production side, it's I don't get too involved. I think I wanted also to add to what Millie said, was I think that it's from when I was doing it, it was always nice if you have to look at like 50 showreels, and a lot of them might be similar tutorials and stuff. When you see one that generally makes you laugh and stand up because they've animated something, they've brought their own kind of personality to, and they've kind of really elevated it and had some really kind of nice timing. That's the stuff that you remember and you want to work with that person. So I'd say what also is going to make you kind of stand out in a good way.
It's a very good answer. Lauren, from your point of view, what should artists consider when applying to work on 2D productions at Blue Zoo, maybe from a storyboard point of view? And what do you look for in portfolios?
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Tom on this one. That was one of my points for this question was one thing that has stood out to me before is when an artist or several artists will have on their portfolio work that they did from either a tutorial or a class that they've taken, which is very useful. You should definitely do it. Always take classes. But if you're submitting maybe you storyboarded a scene in this class from the same script, five or 10 other artists are putting the same exact thing on their portfolio. I literally got confused between 3 submissions once because they all had the same tutorial work on, and I was like, wait, who is this? So it doesn't make you stand out in any way because you're just doing the same thing, this tutorial. So always try and obviously take the tutorial and learn these things, but then go take what you've learned from these classes and make your own portfolio piece, because that's your voice. Your work from tutorials isn't really a voice really, and I think that can be a detriment. And then I got told this from Chris Wimberley from when he was at Disney TV. I took one of his classes and it's stuck in my mind ever since. So a really good way to show your storyboarding prowess, because you have to think about the rules of storyboarding, the 180 rule, perspective, character acting, where the camera is, that kind of thing. And a really good piece to show that off is storyboard a scene that's in like a confined space. So like a confined and complicated space. So a kitchen or a car are some really good examples because they're quite difficult to kind of keep the cinematography, fun but also clear. And yeah, ever since I learned that, like, I feel like my third eye was opened. And yeah, because he was right. It's right. It's so easy to storyboard a scene if it's in the middle of a wide open field. Do you know what I mean? Or plain white space. Yeah, always try to, acting is important in storyboarding, but so is backgrounds and perspective. And I think a lot of new starters to storyboarding don't realize that. I think a lot of people can come into storyboarding thinking, well, it's just 2D animation but hand drawn, but less frames, and it's more than that. It's composing a shot and making sure you have clarity with it, within the scene and what you're showing to the audience. And yeah, complicated scenes is a complicated set, I think can be really impressive in a portfolio. So yeah.
That's awesome. Before we go, I just wanted to ask first, Tom, where can our audience go to find more information about Blue Zoo?
I'd say probably the best place on our socials. Or we post all of our jobs on our LinkedIn, so I think that would be a great place if you want to find more about the I guess the social side of our company and less on just the job postings. On our Instagram and TikTok as well would be great places to go. But I'd recommend going to our LinkedIn, and then we've got a careers.blue-zoo.co.uk where all of our jobs are posted, and we are constantly hiring as well. We've got some new shows starting very soon, so do follow those channels to make sure you don't miss out.
And if anybody wanted to follow you, is there anywhere that they'd be able to?
I've generally disconnected from a lot of social media these days for the sanity of it, but I am on LinkedIn, so it's probably best to look me up on LinkedIn.
Lauren, is there anywhere that the audience can go to follow on your social channels, or are there any productions that you'd like to plug?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Bimling on most socials. I'm usually active on Instagram the most. So yeah, you can follow me there. And Watch this space. There's a new show coming out on CBeebies. We've worked incredibly hard on it. It's coming out, I think, early next year. We've worked so hard. So keep an eye out for that. It's very magical. That's all I'll say.
I'm looking forward to it. It sounds really cool. Millie, do you want to plug a social media page and also production?
Yeah, you could follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and any of like the social medias is all the same. It's Mills Sketches. Feel free to message me if you want to ask any questions about 2D animation, and any advice or portfolio reviews. Like, happy to help in any way I can. Yeah, and same. Watch this space, same thing.
Yeah, we're on the same production, so we can't.
Yeah.
We're like the same thing.
Free advertising at this point.
Well, Tom, Millie, Lauren, I want to thank you for taking time to discuss Blue Zoo Animation Studio with our community, and thank you so much to everyone who joined this week's live stream discussion. If you enjoyed the conversation, you can find our stream schedule at toonboom.com/blog. There's some really cool conversations that are going to be happening in September. On Tuesday, Marie-Eve Lasselle will be hosting a Harmony Premium live stream with Montreal Industry Pro Maxime Valliere-Leduc, and you won't want to miss it. So thank you all for watching, and be sure to tune in next time.